Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I am the King under the mountain, and it's just a quick video really because some people seem to struggle with this as a concept. And it's about clearing, so how to effectively clear enemy tiles from an area and sort of the key things to do and not to do and sort of things like that really. So let me just check out, see what's going on down here. I will probably guard this tile. So we've sent Faramir down here. He hasn't really done a great deal of things yet. That's a half a Khaldun. We'll see what happens there actually. But for now, I will go back to what I was doing. So we're going to try and clean out this area, and there's a few key details I would say to clear in an area. One, keep some connecting tiles to have enough tiles to actually be effective in what you're clearing. There is a key to this as well. If you feel it is going to be a safe land in the future, perhaps drop some of your tiles from another area so you can clean faster by having more tiles free. I still have tiles right the way up here because I know that they'll be safe for a very long time. These here debatably won't be safe for that long, so I won't drop too many tiles to actually filter into this area. So there's a few things that I'm aiming to get from here. One is this war drummer camp, which I might get by the end of this video. We don't have war, so I'll be talking through what siege options people have. I am hoping to try and get up here as well while we're on the stream. Start removing a few more bases. That's what we're trying to achieve today, is just uproot some people from here and slowly try and clean across Isengard, hopefully, as we go. As for types for cleaning, so over here at the moment I have Thorin, who doesn't have an accessory, and I'll explain why when I get onto that. Also over here we have Aragorn, who is probably the king of my pathers really at level 38 with decent gear. He will take these 150 tiles, so anything above a level 20 com I'll use to take 130s and 150s, anything below 60s and 90s, and below that obviously with 30s and 40s and 1 tiles, which I don't know if anyone's noticed, but 1 tiles now come up with effortless instead of I can't remember what they used to say before, I might have just stopped at underwhelming. So that's our plan. We'll be dropping these 150 tiles as we go. Thorin will take this 60. So we're just going to clean around this area. So because there's enemy bases around, I have 5 comms available to me from a ruins. 3 of them are attacking comms, just in case I run into any bases which want to put up some resistance. And then I have 2 for basically path clearing. So Aragorn will take this 150 for me. Like so, and because the other key to it is all your comms should have gear on as far as I'm concerned, or at least some gear on, just to minimise your losses. Thorin normally has my Dwarven Siege Drum, which is why he hasn't got anything at the moment for an item, because I'm presuming someone else has it, although I'm not sure who has actually got it at the moment. Anyway, I'll put it back on Thorin for now. Aragorn's got it from where I was sieging earlier on. So I am quite a poor sieger. So with this being a non-roleplay server, there are some great siege options, to which my barracks is full of none of them. And this is what I'm saying about taking very few losses when you're doing tiles, mainly because the gear is good. And also you're full of troops and he's a higher level. But it just means that you're taking enemy tiles while not really doing anything to hurt yourself. So we'll take this 150 and then we'll march at this 200. But while we're waiting for that march, we'll just go and have a look in the barracks. So my barracks is pretty much full at the moment. Whenever it's not full, I tend to add more dwarves in because I use Dane more than anything else, and they are good for pathing and things like that, if not a little slow. So siege wise, because particularly when you don't have war, it's really frustrating with the minus 70% penalty. And in a non-roleplay server, these guys are brilliant, although I don't have any. So Dunlending Warriors, they gain plus speed and also resources when they're destroying field structures, which is great. And their siege goes up each time, and they ignore protection effects. So basically they always do full siege damage. So these guys, whether you've got war buff or not, or lands neutral, or it's taken by the enemy or taken by you, whatever it might be, they always do their full siege. So those guys are fantastic for siege if you need them. My options of siege, because I tend to fill my barracks full of troops that I can fight with, tend to be Guardians or the T2 Shield Bearers, and then I will use my Drums and Moria with Siege of Dwarves. So I get plus 12 for each dwarf. So it does add up. I know a lot of people use the tier 1 dwarves for siege and also use the Siege Hammer, which I will just show you because I don't think this is a Siege Hammer. This is Dwarf Strength. So on some commanders, with the tier 1 dwarves, you can use this, so Dwarven Footmen get a bonus, and you can also use the siege drums. So you get plus 24 siege from the Warhammer and the Drums of Moria, which means dwarves are brilliant for siege if you can equip both items. Unfortunately for good side comms, Hergon can't have either, which is a bit annoying really, because there's a lot of evil siege and not a lot of good side siege. Looks like there's quite a bit going on down here, so I should probably pay some attention. But if Faramir gets hit, at least it's a battle report to look at. And I'll be interested to see how he gets on, because he hasn't really had too many fights this season yet. So the chief tiler for taking enemy tiles for me, if 200 and above, is always Gandalf the Grey. Mine's quite a high respect Gandalf and fairly well geared. I don't put much in the grey. I tend to use Wizard more for dropping the defence and getting the stun, partly because this mixes really well with Convener and with the follow-up, and you get initiative and you do that much damage early that it scales down. Basically your enemy damage is lower because you've killed 3/4 of their army before they can hit you, so that's good. So again, he's not taking too many losses. We are going to try and drop tiles as we go. So we'll take this, and then we can now drop these two. So the key is with clearing not to do something like this, where you leave a enemy tile connected to your tiles. It just allows them a great route of taking the tile back if they want to. So all this area needs completely scrubbing. Also, any of these tiles could be turned into a fort so the enemy can get back behind us. So this is the area that's been worked on. And as you can see, there is not a red tile anywhere in this. So this is what we're trying to achieve all the way across up here. It takes a long time, but if everyone gets involved in tile clearing, it works a lot faster. The other key is try and keep your troops as topped up as possible in your commanders, and keep your reinforcing time low. So at the moment, my reinforcing time, I'd argue, to be effective with clearing is too far. I should really move down here, but I've got plans to move somewhere else, hopefully in the next day or so with a relocate. So on effective clearing, I always have at least 2 pathing comms, which in this case is Thorin and Aragorn, and then I've got my 3 attacking comms for the larger tiles as I come across them and to hit bases. The other option I have for siege, as I'm conscious I went through the dwarf option and didn't go through my other option, so, and this does work with Hergon, is I like to use elves. Either the tier 2 or tier 3 archers, because I use them anyway. So in my barracks I'm not wasting any space looking for siege troops. Yes, I will do less siege, but it's still effective siege. So I will probably in this case use the tier 3 sentinels and use this piece of equipment here, which is a Hiflane with siege valves. So when this is maxed out, you get plus 12 siege for your elves. So you add that to Hergon's original bonus and you get a decent amount of siege from him without having to take up barrack space to purposely siege. Option 3, I suppose, and probably my favourite option, but it's a little bit annoying when it goes wrong because you do lose some troops and some important ones as well. I also run rams in my barracks, and I like to use those with the drums of Moria with Siege of Dwarves, just for some fast siege really. So both my Aragorns, for example, are set up with the Strider skill maxed. So again, they can use the drums of Moria because of this max effects where he doesn't ignores all race restrictions on all equipment. So they're my 3 ways of sieging. Now, they're not the best ways of sieging, they're not the most effective. We have people in the fellowships which are brilliant at sieging and basically can take down keeps on their own through using things like, because it's an unroll play server, like a Gothmog, or a lot of the Dwarven comms are actually leaders and can use both of the drums of Moria and the siege hammer. So Thorin is the leader, so you get the 5 extra command. Falgon's also a leader, so you'd get the 5 extra command. Borlin's also a leader, so you get the 5 extra command. And Ori's not, so it's one of those. But you've got 3 extra dwarves there where you're getting 5 extra command and you can use both. Gandalf's very frustrating at points when he decides he wants to draw with 200 power tiles, but I suppose it is protected by Dane. I can't complain too much. He hasn't took too many losses, although it's a bit annoying. That's probably more than what I'd like to take. Meanwhile, we'll just try and clear around it, because the last thing I would like to happen at this point is we take the tile and then someone sends an army while I'm reinforcing just to take it back. So I try and clear in little clusters like this, just to keep myself in the game. We're just going to have a look what's going on by Faramir. There is a lot of stuff going on around here. I'll leave that be for a moment. As you can see, we've invaded Tarlor. Everyone's going after the Woses camp straight away, which is handy. So this is what I would consider to be effective clearing, where you are literally focused on one small area and then you will go after keeps. Like so, and getting rid of all the field barracks which are set up on this the Season 6 server. So without that siege buff though, this is going to be quite a hard settlement to get rid of. We've probably uprooted 4 or 5 today, but it's took a lot of stamina to get through them. The other thing about clearing is if I've got, say I have a fort here which has got my commanders in, as you can see, I've then also got this one behind it. So as one of these stamina runs out, I will switch someone from this fort here into this one, so the time of reinforce is smaller. So then they go in here, the other commander goes back to base, and then I fill in to this fort here. So I'm consciously, my sort of time to continue taking tiles away from enemies is quite low. I'm not the best at clearing, but I do try and get involved because I think it's important that everyone in each of the fellowships should get involved. Like I say, leaving tiles sort of in between like this, it's just a recipe for disaster in the future, particularly while the land is still owned by the enemy. Quick sip of coffee. I also meant to say as well, in the last video that I did before this, I did a bit of a guide on Dane where I actually only went through his gold items, and I feel quite bad about that. So if you are running a Dane and he's not, you know, gold item specific, there are quite a few weapons that I can suggest. So you've got the battle axe with flay, which massively helps Dane. Arguably you could use a warhammer with something like concussion on it for breaking defences. Then if I was suggesting purple armour, I would definitely be suggesting the superior hauberk with fire protection. Yes, you could run melee vigour, but I think the fire protection these days covers you for all manner of sins. Either that, or I'd suggest something like a scale mail with melee vigour. Would work quite well. And then for purple helms, I would argue the brutal helm with melee vigour is probably the best because you get the plus HP. But you can't really go wrong either with a full helm with melee vigour either, to be perfectly honest. I do sometimes when I run Gimli, and I would run this on Dane, to be fair, run a Bone Master with Manipulate, because I think against certain enemies it can be really handy if you can get one enemy with minus 42% damage for a round, particularly if they're running something like Morgul Arbalest. And then as for accessories, if you're going to run a perfect accessory, I don't think you can really go wrong with something like a Hiflane with Mend or Bane of Orcs, depending on whether you're fighting good or evil. I wouldn't run the Drums of Moria just for the simple reason that even with some of the sub-skills, unless it's something like a Bane of Dwarves, I guess, and you are fighting a lot of good side dwarf comms, I don't see its use for Dane, because you get more might and some HP with the Hiflane, and the plus attack for melee isn't fantastic because you're not really allowing your troops to attack, is the key there. So that was just to run through that from before. Apologies, I didn't do that. So Gandalf's finally taken this tile. He only lost 4 units. I'm fairly happy with that. So just reinforce. Like I say, Gandalf is not really used for PvP anymore. I might throw him at this keep here, because I know he runs a Witch King, and I also know it incinerates my Dane if I don't look at it properly. So again, while that's reinforcing, we're just going to take the tile around it, which we will wait for Aragorn to reinforce, and we will start to take these tiles here. So just for speed purposes while we're doing this, so I'm going to clear this little area here, which will probably take me to roughly tile limit, but you know, these tiles are dropping in between. And then I'm going to work my way up here and see if there's anything in this settlement here before probably leaving the video, because I don't want it to be too long. But yeah, it's pretty clean second time round by Gandalf, to be fair to him. That's why I like Gandalf on the higher tiles, really, the 200 pluses, up until about a 260, because I just feel his losses are so low when he's taking people out. So in a second, Thorin's stamina will be gone, I think he's got one more hit, yeah. So once Thorin's stamina's gone, we will switch him out, send him home, and send in a different commander to this fort, just to continue clearing fast. So we'll drop the troops. Focus on the ruins. Actually, can't do it that way around. So then I will summon Thorin back to base. Wherever he might be, there he is. Then I will head down to the fort here, and I will move across probably Aragorn. So I'll move Aragorn to here, and then once he's there he can reinforce, because then he's regenerating stamina while he's moving. And then we'll send down another commander. So I'll send down Gandalf the White, if I've got enough to fill that, plus I've probably not got enough to do it that way around actually, so I'll give him some swans, which is a bit of a waste really. as he will kill a few swans, unfortunately, while he's doing this. And then I will send Gandalf the White to this fort here, so he is ready when we next need to switch commanders. So Aragorn's 4 minutes away from his new fort. He'll then have to reinforce, and he can come out and help around here. But we'll nearly be at tile limit then anyway, I think. See what's going on over by Faramir. I don't know if there's anything in this fort. I'm guessing there's not, by the way that it's 83%. Okay, so we should be able to move King of Men again now. So we're cutting off around here to start with, so no one can just come and try and jump on the 200 tile and hit Gandalf while he's reinforcing. I'd prefer enemies not to hit Gandalf anyway, like I've said, because he's fairly weak at the moment when it comes to PvP, unless he's hitting a Witch King. And then we just keep dropping the tiles as we go. So soon we'll send down some people with either some rams or probably someone with full guardians, and then put the dwarven siege drum on just so we can try and get rid of these. It'll take more hits than normal, but at least then be gone. Looks like someone's moving in over here to help out, which is good. But I would hope in probably another day's time, all the area there and beyond will be blue or purple. Like I say, all this area was red yesterday, so this has all been cleaned really well, as you can see. This is nearly down, I think now. Oh, 83% still. Not sure if they're defending or not. It doesn't look that way. It's just like I say, we haven't got siege buff any of us. So with this not being our land, it takes a long time. Here we go. So King of Men has now taken that tile. How much stamina has King of Men got left? So he's got 2 more hits as King of Men. Might as well reinforce him while we're waiting. But yeah, I'd also really like this war drummer camp here if I can get hold of it before someone else, just so I can get into inspiration and remotivate. As when you have put 10 points into morale in your ring, you no longer get this debuff for using, say, orcs on good side comms. Which I think is quite a nice feature, actually, of the King of Men season, which is what this is. I know it's not majorly important because you don't lose too many troops while doing this, but I do think if you're going to use melee troops, use a melee vigor. Use something that suits the troop type that you're using. So if they are using dwarves, try using a Drums and Moria or a Warhammer. So you're actually buffing the troops as you should be. It's kind of the same system as season starts. You know, your gear that you have for PvP arguably isn't going to be right. Oh, so we did get into a bit of a fight there. So it was actually, oh, that's a nice foreign. So there you go. So we got followed up, but it'll teach me to pay attention. But in fairness, that hit there on that Galadriel was actually a really nice hit from Faramir. Which I'm quite pleased about that, because that's a very cheap combo in comparison to theirs, which is quite an expensive one. However, that will be the end of Faramir. but I'll refill him when he's... I'll probably just speed recall him and fill him back up and build some more troops. I am interested to see how Faramir goes. I'm not going to be one of these people who runs him with anything too funky, so I think I might get some more Globalists, for example, or to be honest, I'll probably just replace Sentinel with Wozes if we get that far. I think with the skills that Faramir has, and I can run him with this this mem buff, I think Wozes with the mem buff will be pretty good. Where's a Wozes camp, just so I can show that off. There we go. So Wozes. So yeah, so they also have the poison damage, a bit like more Globalists. They gain initiative, which is pretty handy in the first 4 rounds, and they've also got a damage received debuff. It's a shame they haven't got a follow up like they have in Tactics Evolved, and I suppose the Arbalists do. But then I'm getting increased damage, so it's probably a close call. I'd have to work it out to see which way round works better, I guess. For now, let's just put some more troops on because I've got an abundance of resources. Let's hire those. Conscription. Put those on, and that's my barracks full again. My apothecary is okay at the moment, so that will actually be like an extra storage. That's sort of an extra tip, really. If your barracks is full, your troops will sit in the in here, and you can't obviously fix them. But you could potentially have a barracks, which, if you time it right, you can have 1400 in here, for example, with max barracks. But you can also have sort of 180 in here that you could potentially fast speed up or speed up, so your barracks can actually be closer to 1600 if you time it right. Just another tip there. So Aragorn's now moved over. Oh, that's going to be a long reinforce. I thought he was on Rams. It's a shame. That might change the opinion on how far I get through this, because I only really wanted to make this a short video on clearing. While we're just waiting there, we'll have a quick look into that Faramir report, because I've never really gone into a Faramir report before. He gets panned, but in fact he doesn't actually even do that bad against Thorin, considering he does roughly the same amount of damage, I'm guessing then. 100k received, 80k done, so in fairness to him, it's not the worst effort considering he was pretty much dead. So just delving into this, let's have a look at this build. I get really frustrated by this. I don't know why people don't use Magical Barrier even for 1 point with Galadriel. I'll show you why. So Galadriel is a focus commander who has high focus, gains good focus per level, and has a skill called Magical Barrier. So it may only be 3.2 defense there, but it's modified by a focus stat, so the high focus stat actually makes this a really good skill even with 1 point in it. So I don't really know why people wouldn't even have just 1 point in it, to be honest. And she's got the White Council tree, so I would definitely be running with my Galadriel at a high level. I would be running this full, this for a few points in, that full. Ring of Water. I would be getting this as high up as I can, but maxing out Mistress of Magic first, then Surge, then Focus Wrath, because this is all her focus skills there. Then I would be trying to get the White Council tree up, and Champion of Light if I'm fighting evil, or High Alert if I want to get some protection in there. But I don't really understand why. I've noticed with this entire Blue Kingdom, none of them seem to run Magical Barrier, so if someone wants to tell me why that is, let me know, I guess. But just going into that actual report then, I mean, that's a really expensive combination in comparison to mine for the cost of the troops. And I wasn't actually full, I was close to full, but not quite full. That's 1150 Swan Knight, so I'm guessing Faramir has done some serious damage early on. Mainly troop damage, which I would probably expect, and a decent amount of healing as well, to be honest, through his... it's only going to be the armed escort tree, isn't it? Yeah, armed escort tree there. So to be fair to him, decent amount of healing for something that is just a skill that actually does a little bit of damage. Let's have a little dive into the first few rounds then. Because I'll be quite interested to see how Faramir does. So this is what I like about Faramir, if I can see his skills in action. Let's have a look at the preparation phase. So you'd expect those to be the same. Commander bonus, quite a decent amount of damage. Speed boost is pretty good, so he should act first, I would think. Then he's got ranged advantage, damage dealt plus 40%. Sentinels gain swiftness, fine. Guard of the tower against mounted units, that was quite handy in this combination. Ranged might for the extra damage, initiative, and then the damage dealt plus 40%. So there's going to be a lot of early damage here, I reckon. And then we've added some damage through nobility as well, which is why I think running in with Roses would probably be good. So we got Stun and Madness immunity, which is always a bonus. So he attacks in pursuit for 7k, not too bad. Attacks in pursuit again for 5k. Okay. Faramir's done alright there, damage for himself, and then the Sentinels hit for 14, which is nice. Sharpshooters hit for 23, which is really nice. So we've done a lot of damage there before they've even acted. Probably, what's that, 7, 12, 14, 28. About 50 by the time the Guards of the Towers, probably 51-ish k, just over 50k in round 1. Plus the Guard of the Tower, which are a bit slower, which have then done a bit more. So 55k round 1 is pretty good. So what I like about Faramir, it's early damage, but this is why he needs pursuit, just in case of anyone doing anything against it. So another 3, 5, and then 14k from the Sentinels, that's nice. Sharpshooters again, so again it's another 38 between them, plus the 6 from the Guards of the Tower, 44. Yeah, it was a good couple of rounds. So we've done just over 100k, I think, in the first 2 rounds. The Faramir's doing a bit more damage here. Galadriel starts hitting his focus there. This is where she comes into her own, really. Some good damage there by Galadriel. But I've got nothing that's going to debuff focus, so with it going straight through my armor, that's pretty good. Where was the damage? I go straight to the Swan Knights again. So that right, okay. So this round kind of did us over a little bit. We killed the last 2 Swan Knights, and that was that really. But the damage drop off there was quite impressive how that worked. Ouch! Second wind hit heals Cataphract by 0. Of course, won't work because. I'm guessing that won't work because the Swan Knights have been taking all the damage. So we got rid of the Swan Knights in the first 2 rounds, which is pretty good, really. And then we've started hitting everything else. So where is... See, the damage drop off after those first 2 rounds, and this is why it's so important that Faramir has pursuit. Because even though they're doing a good chunk of damage still, considering it's nowhere near the amount that those first 2 rounds are the damage difference. So yeah, quite impressed with that. That's the first time really I've used Faramir in any real fight, so and I wasn't even paying attention. So Aragon now has troops, so he can come and start mopping up these. So the plan then, just to finish off, I would like to think that I will... I may just try and connect to here just so I can have a little hit. which is a bit naughty. I haven't really got anything close enough to make it great. No, I'll keep my discipline and leave it there. So we're just going to carry on cleaning around this area. As you can see, these tiles have nearly dropped. The key is to make sure I get these tiles before these two drop, so I'm not re-getting a tile just to go back to it. And that was really just me on a little bit of clearing. So on that note, as always, thanks for listening and watching, and it is appreciated. Hope you enjoy it. If you've got any suggestions for content, just let me know, and you know, if you put it in the comments, I will try and get around to it. But if in doubt, as always,